The fashionably dressed manager, Perry, smiled at the man dressed all in white sitting in the back. It doesn't matter what the exact details of the movie are. The company is going all out this time to recommend you for the lead role. Gab smiled faintly and quietly gazed at the ever-changing city scenery outside the window. Even though you say that, I've heard that director Liam is someone who always sticks to his own rules. He himself often decides what actors to use. President Liu and President Su are recommending you together. You are very outstanding and will definitely get the role. The rain continued to pour. The black company car stopped outside a hotel's door. The assistant in the car quickly opened the door and hurriedly got out while carrying a black umbrella. As he stepped out of the car, Gab raised his head and looked at the hotel standing before him. Gab, Director Lee is waiting for you in the business room on floor 16. We'll wait for you downstairs, give me a call if anything happens, Perry said as he came out of the car carrying an umbrella. Gab gave Perry a smile and said, I know, I will do my best. At that moment, another car came to a stop outside the hotel doors. Gab turned to look. What was Finn doing here? Finn raised his head and evenly met Gab's gaze. The corners of his mouth twitched upwards in a smile. What a coincidence. Somewhat indifferent, Gab nodded slightly at Finn. Did you come here to eat? No, there's an audition, Finn replied. There were other hotel guests in the elevator. This prevented the two of them from being alone and also from feeling the need to talk and start an awkward conversation. The elevator went up slowly. Finn mentally reviewed his information on Gab. 24 years old, debuted in the same idol group as his, made a solo debut 3 years later, played the male lead in his first movie, won the Best Newcomer award the same year, and later on won many awards of the newcomer with the most promising future and most popular actor type. All he was missing was a work with impact, one that an actor could rely on to quickly raise his fame. The Gab of the present, with his many advantages, was someone Finn couldn't measure up to. Two giant entertainment agencies were backing Gab up. He was young and enjoyed great popularity. He could also be considered a hard-working person. No matter how one looked at it, Gab was excellent all around. The elevator came to a stop on the 16th floor. The two men stepped out of the elevator in turn and walked together towards the business room. Looking at Gab's indifferent back, Finn smiled slightly. The kid was unable to completely hide his irritation. He didn't know how to restrain his haughtiness. There were already a number of people in the business room. Director Liam greeted the two when he noticed them. Gab enthusiastically went up to the director and started to chat. Director Liam only smiled. Soon after, he called Finn and Gab aside to talk to them privately. Smiling, Director Liam went directly to the heart of the interview's main topic. The movie has two male leads. The other actor has already arrived, so in a moment, I hope you two can each act out a scene with him. The director looked thoughtfully at Finn and Gab. Before that, I would like to confirm that the two of you are willing to participate in my test. Moreover, after the test, are you willing to accept my specific arrangements to begin shooting the movie? I'm willing, Finn blurted out. Gab was a bit surprised but unwilling to fall behind. Immediately afterwards he replied, Director, I'm also willing. Very good. Seeing that both Gab and Finn had expressed their consent, the director happily clapped once. He then told the two men, in that case, I'll ask the two of you to come with me and meet Mr. Gino. Gino? Whoa. Wait a second, it couldn't really be that bastard, that son of a bitch, right? Even in his wildest imaginings, he hadn't thought that he would run into that guy, Michael Gino. He did not know how he had previously offended Gino, but every time they met, that well-groomed man would come over and deliberately utter some insulting words. Whenever there were people around, Finn often responded to Gino with a smile before turning around and leaving without paying him any attention. When there were no people around, Finn would not hesitate to punch Gino. Under the director's lead, not long after, they met Michael Gino. He was still dressed in a fashionable and dashing way. No matter where he went, he would attract a crowd of screaming women. That was Gino. You guys can chat for a moment. The director quickly left. Gab was slightly intimidated as he greeted Gino. The first thing out of his mouth was, Hello, I'm Gab. I love your movies. I've watched every single one of them, social greetings along those lines. Gino shook Gab's hand in a friendly way, looking like a good-natured person from all sides. Compared to the enthusiastic Gab, Finn, who was standing by the side with only a faint smile on his face, stood out greatly. Gino quickly took notice of him. What about you? Do you also like to watch my movies? I'm sorry. I haven't seen a single one. Finn's unexpected answer made Gab, who was standing by the side, freeze in shock. For a moment, Gino's pale blue eyes seemed to have brightened. You really are a very rude person. Finn knew Gino all too well. He smiled faintly. What about you? Have you seen any of my works? Gino did not get angry, on the contrary, he laughed. I haven't watched your works. We would definitely get along. The three of them had not talked for long before the staff came calling for them. The director let some people prepare first. The first group up was Gab and Gino. At that moment, an unexpected guest stepped into the business room. Tristan came into the room. Finn wasn't narcissistic enough to believe that his own president was here to see him. His own agency's president coming here to see Gab instead of himself, however, was very funny, no matter how he looked at it. Tristan's sudden arrival did not affect the audition schedule. From a professional viewpoint, Gab's performance was actually not bad. He was unexpectedly well matched with Gino. Finn sighed quietly. Seen through the camera lens, they truly were not a bad match. Gab's English wasn't good, but he could learn. His acting wasn't good either, but sometimes the kind of bewildered and unrefined act was precisely what directors were looking for. Even if Finn was the emperor of movies, even if he was an experienced actor who had won many awards, it did not mean that he could let down his guard. He failed to notice that Tristan, who had been watching only Gab at the start, had been watching him almost the whole time afterwards. Earnest and serious, it was a side of Finn that Tristan had never seen before. Very good. That was very good. At the end of the performance, director Liam gave out high praise to the two. Finn unconsciously pursed his lips together. It was his first time facing the cameras after his rebirth, and he had to face the truth. He became slightly nervous. And Gino, who was facing him, could see it. You're nervous. You should just leave it to me. Gino smiled at him. At Gino's words, Finn's anxiety vanished completely. Standing behind the camera, the director was recording each and every move the two men made. At that moment, the director had none of the kindness and casualness he had before. Director Liam didn't announce their audition results right then and there. Instead, he told them to return and wait for the notice by phone. Finn immediately felt a surge of defeat. If he failed the first round of auditions, there was definitely no hope left for him. Gab and Tristan left walking together. Finn didn't know what they were saying to each other, but in order to avoid the awkwardness of taking the elevator together with those two, Finn went straight for the stairs. It didn't take long for him to walk from the 16th floor down to the first floor. It was still pouring rain outside, and it showed no signs of letting up. Where's Sharon? Finn stood at the doorway and looked about for a while but couldn't see her figure anywhere. He had no idea where the car went either. When he was about to call Sharon, a matte, black sports car stopped in front of him. The car window slowly slid down. Tristan gazed at him indifferently from within the car. Get in. I won't inconvenience President Liu. Sharon will drive me back. Finn instinctively refused. I told her go back. You can stay here and wait for a taxi, or you can get in. Trying to flag down a taxi in this kind of weather would really be quite difficult. Outside the window, thunder and lightning mingled together. Raindrops as large as beans hit the cold glass pane one after another. It was only afternoon, but the sky looked so dark it was like the apocalypse was approaching. It was a pity that neither of them was the type to be easily embarrassed. One of the two men was calmly driving the car. The other was thinking back on the audition and completely disregarding the one driving. Who are you? The question unexpectedly burst out in the quiet atmosphere. The voice was soft, however, it sounded like an explosion to Finn's ears. President Liu, I'm Finn, your employee. He deliberately emphasized the last two words. He knew Tristan wasn't asking about that, but Finn had decided to play stupid till the end. Even with a DNA analysis, the fact that he was Finn couldn't be changed. Are you complaining that I don't see you as an employee? Surprisingly, the man actually followed up on the topic and continued talking. No, I'm the one who's not being a good employee. Turning away from the window, Finn rested his head on the soft car seat. It's good that you understand. Tristan's words were arrogant. Finn resisted the urge to roll his eyes and absent-mindedly said, President Liu, are you sure this is the right road to take me back home? So you already see Charles' mansion as your home? It's only for a month, after it's over, you'll have to move out. Tristan continued to drive, not answering Finn's question. Whenever he thought about the fact that the previous Finn was a mere pawn in Tristan's hands, he had to sigh. In this world, it wasn't exactly easy for a boss to be as horrible as Tristan. To prevent himself from blurting out poisonous words, Finn closed his mouth. After all, his business contract was still in the hands of Tristan. The car rolled to a stop beside the city's well-known, high-end restaurant. Finn gave the man sitting beside him a look. Was the stingy, sarcastic, and harsh President Liu inviting him out to eat? It seems like your eyes are saying that I'm too stingy to invite employees out to eat. Tristan suddenly smiled. The man always had on a serious and stiff expression. His sudden smile did not make Finn feel that he was more handsome. It only made his hair stand on end. President Liu, my eyes can't speak. A beautiful waitress wearing a cheongsam led the way to their room. It seemed like Tristan had already booked a seat. There was a small courtyard-like room with numerous skylights. In the middle, there was a table and several chairs made out of bamboo. Charles was sitting with his legs crossed, watching a tea ceremony. It was probably Charles who'd asked Tristan to bring him along. Naturally, Finn took the spot beside Charles while Tristan sat opposite of Charles. How was the audition today? Charles casually asked, but one could tell just by looking at his face that he didn't truly care. It was all right. Likewise, Finn wasn't interested in discussing work while eating. After a few casual exchanges, the conversation topic changed. Weapons, smuggling, money laundering, well, the food was very delicious. He totally didn't hear any of it. Finn focused on eating. Someone who was capable of treating a person like merchandise and selling them for a month was most likely not a normal law-abiding citizen. Charles drove Finn to one of the city's top-class restaurants. The waiter obviously knew Charles, and personally led the two of them to a private room. Two big and strong bodyguards dressed in black stood outside the private room guarding the door with a fiendish look on their faces. After seeing Charles, the two bodyguards respectfully bowed. Afterwards, one of them opened the door for them. There were already quite a number of people inside the room. Albert, my old friend, Charles gave an excited greeting. However, the man's manner of speaking was always on the frivolous side. Albert, the one Charles had mentioned, was the only one sitting at the dining table. The look in his emerald green eyes gave people an uneasy feeling. If Charles could be said to be a jaguar pretending to be a high-class gentleman, then Albert was the sort of beast that made no attempt to conceal its vicious attitude. Raising a corner of his mouth, Albert sized up Finn with his eyes. His gaze at Finn wasn't one of looking at a person, it was more like he was looking at Finn as some sort of prey or toy. Albert smiled. Your new toy? The minute he opened his mouth, out came words of perfect offensiveness. Albert lifted his fingers slightly. The bodyguard that had been standing on the side came forward with cigarettes and a lighter. The golden-haired man took a long drag of his cigarette and leisurely blew out clouds of smoke. He then raised his chin in a signal. The bodyguard immediately put a suitcase onto the table. Following Albert's command, the bodyguard opened the suitcase. Inside, there weren't any packets of drugs or stacks of cash, only a few syringes filled with an unknown liquid. Charles stood up and picked up one of the syringes. He carelessly gave it a look and then took out another from the suitcase. Darling, help me load it. Finn quietly sighed, but he still reached out and took the two syringes from Charles. He took care to maintain a calm attitude, but God knows what kind of suspicious liquid the syringes held. Albert, who was sitting opposite them, gave Finn another glance. This Albert looked like some special sort of pervert with strange preferences. Why don't you get together with me instead? Neither Tristan nor Charles are good people. Charles immediately tore off Albert's cover. Don't listen to his nonsense. This guy here is abnormal. In their eyes, he was merely a toy or a pawn. In Finn's eyes, they were all scums of the earth. Did they think he was some sort of clay doll that could be easily squished? If that was the case, then there was no need for him to hold back. After all, he hadn't relied on only his acting skills to climb from the position of an orphan to that of a film star.